So the inductive Bible study method is been around fairly commonly since kind of like the mid-'80s is when it started gaining popularity. And the inductive Bible study method is a series of primarily annotations that help you learn to study the Bible in sort of a systematic way. Whenever I was going through and doing our series on Mark, a lot of people asked me, how did you find some of those ideas? Where did they come from? Well, primarily they came because I read the text. And the most you're going to learn about the text is from reading the text and studying the text in depth. So, once again, we're going to go through the top 5 reasons, and unfortunately this erased, the top 5 reasons to go inductive. So number 1, it encourages study of the Bible. Okay? So, some people have to have, and I'm going to have a little bit of lag all night, I think. Okay. Sometimes just having to go through a certain process in order to do a study helps you get better at doing the study. And for some people, it's just having a process. Maybe it's not even the best process for them. It just is a process. I teach a lot of test-taking skills for physicians trying to take the boards. So it used to be in our residency, before you were allowed to take your boards, you had to pass my test. And I would teach a certain method that I wanted everyone to use. Not because my method was the best, but primarily because most people had no method at all. And if you don't have any type of method at all, you don't really know where you're going to wind up. So one of the things about encouraging us to study is it gives us some sort of framework that we're going to use whenever we do study. So, as I mentioned this morning, there's very few people who say that we read our Bibles too much. There's very few people who say we pray too much. There's very few people who say we study the Bible too much. If for nothing else, this gets people opening the Scriptures and looking at them. So that's number 1. All right, so number 2, if it'll catch up with me. So number 2, it helps those with different learning methods. As you can tell, James learns by speaking. Okay, so I'm going to pass something around here. There's 2 products out now. The first one, this is the Inductive Journaling Bible. Journaling New Testament Inductive Edition. This is put out by Crossway. And I've done these annotations for the book of Ephesians, and that's in there. And the second one, I want to start in the back. So this is they call this the New Inductive Study Bible. Study Bible, I think, is a dumb name for it, because it's not really a study Bible. It's just got a little bit better spacing. And mark that I've marked up. So the idea behind this, whenever we learn, educators have broken it down into a couple different categories. You have people who are auditory learners, And traditionally, auditory learners have been the ones that have been the most successful. The reason for that is the way that we teach has been primarily through lecture. And by teaching primarily through lecture, those who didn't learn well by listening got left behind. There's an interesting point in history where the SAT test was changed. They noticed that very disproportionately, men did better on the SAT. And it was because they were testing in such a way that favored those who learned from auditory learning. What this method does is it helps those people who are visual learners and kinesthetic learners to have a way to study the Bible that's engaging and actually gets them in a way that they'll remember it. So a visual learner is someone who learns primarily by what they see. Even though we're reading and we're visualizing the words, most of the learning that comes from reading is actually from you vocalizing those words in your head as you look at them. What this does is it assigns certain shapes and colors, and I'll show you here in a minute in a demonstration. What is it doing? But it uses different symbols and other things along those lines that helps whoever's looking at it to learn based on what they see. It also has the engagement of physically writing things down. By physically writing things down, you've engaged another sense, which is using something and doing work, and you remember the process that it took to do it. So that's number 2. So number 3, when we're finished, we have a visual representation of the text. Who has the soft cover one right now? Is that what Ralphie's got? Okay. Ralphie, we're going to have you do something. Look at the page that you're on, okay, where I've done a lot of scribbles. If you look at it, does it seem like certain symbols appear a lot? Yeah. Are there certain words that are underlined a lot? Yeah. Did you have to read the entire passage to see that? No. And that's one of the ideas behind this, is that by making a visual representation, now you have something that gives you a gestalt by looking at the passage. So that you don't have to look at every single word to get an idea about what's going on. By establishing these symbols and such, you can flip through any given book of the Bible once you've annotated it, and you can get an idea of the things that are going on in that particular passage. Which brings me to the 4th advantage of this method. It views text as the whole. So a lot of times whenever we are doing a Bible study, people look